Yes. So welcome to Brandcom Connect, and our webinar is work from home, a myth for non-IT companies, and I think it's a very relevant topic that we have chosen. The moderator is Subramaniam S. or Subbu. I'll introduce him last, uh, not because it's the least, but because he's our most important person. Let's start with the lady first. Bhamini Painter currently leads the human resource function for Madison World. In her career spanning 20 years, Bhamini has handled broad and diverse leadership roles in strategically aligning HR to business goals, organizational development, process engineering, and people management. Bhamini, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Krishna Kumar at Sasken. Krishna Kumar heads the delivery organization. He works in conjunction with Sasken's sales, marketing, and business lines to anticipate and respond to the needs of Sasken's global customers, both existing and prospective. Thank you, Krishna, for being with us.
Sure.
It means a lot to
My
us.
pleasure. Thank you.
Our third panelist is Mansi Majumdar. Majumdar is the head of human resource, Manipal Global Education Services, MAGE. He's an experienced HR professional with a demonstrated history of working in the technology industry. Our moderator for today will be Subramaniam S. or Subbu as he's fondly known. He's the founder, president, and CEO of Ascent HR. He's a corporate lawyer and a fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. I know Subbu for many years. Unfortunately, we don't play as much golf together as we should, but I'm sure we have a very eminent moderator. So Subbu, the floor is yours. Please have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you. Once again, welcome all of you for being here, and I look forward to a very interesting discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sridhar. Thanks to Brandcom and Sridhar and his team at Brandcom for organizing this webinar on a very crucial topic, which is possibly haunting the whole of corporate world. Is work from home, a myth for non-IT companies, is certainly a very, very, very key topic on the boardrooms, on floors, on the general public, etc. And it's interesting that in the last let's say about 75 days plus of the lockdown, there have been many challenges in making sure people are participating in their work schedules.
Yeah.
The government promoted two things. One, they said, you be isolated, so you be at home for some time, and therefore social distancing was imposed and was mandatory. So the social distancing, what was imposed and mandatory, is likely to be here to stay for some time, is what we have been all hearing for some time in this issue. So on the opening comments, I would like to structure this as we go forward an opening comments part, and then maybe we can pick up a few questions based on the deliberations that go on. The question on the opening comment could be on, is social distancing a reality? And work from home anywhere was there. It was not that it was not there. IT industry was following it. Will this now become a reality for everybody? Or would it remain a myth for non-IT? Let's start the opening comments. I think I'll start with the lady, Bhavini. Would you be going ahead on this comment?
Yes, sure. Well, I strongly believe that organizations are made by people and not by a fancy office and a fancy office address. And I think the pandemic has just brought it live. We are all today connected from home, and yes, it's a reality. So whether it's work from home or learn from home, this is all going to become the new normal for all of us. I strongly feel so. How we manage social distancing, how we follow the rules set, the guidelines, how we keep ourselves safe, I feel is going to be more a personal way of handling it, whilst the government and the organizations are going to provide with all that's necessary, but it's going to be a more personal way of finding your own way to deal with it. But yes, work from home definitely is going to become a reality.
Great. Thanks very much, Bhamini. I'll pass this question to Mansich as the second comment. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Subbu. My view, see, work from home was becoming a reality over a period of time. The pandemic has just accelerated it. Right? We were already, the lines between work and home were blurring. And in the last couple of weeks, what we have seen is that people have been more productive. We have seen people doing much better than what they were doing while at office. Having said that, yes, there is that element of having to come to office for a lot of social interaction that we as human beings, we as people miss, right? There is that structure in an office. There is a lot of tribal knowledge that is there in an office, which we are seeing. We have to have a way of getting that back when people are working from home. But everything said and done, working from home is a new reality, and even non-IT companies, right? Even traditional companies like us, we are in the education sector. We are at tech, but we are close core education as well. We have adjusted quite well to working from home.
Great. I think we also would hear this from the person who is in the industry, which is probably going to make it reality and the work from home. Krishna Kumar, come with your comments, please.
Yes, Subbu. So yes, so IT industry in a way has been blessed because of the type of work that we do, that it's easy for us to do. Not 100%, but maybe 80-90% of the work can be done work from home. But 10-15% is always will require some, wherever there is requirement for some hardware interaction and all that. So there people have to go to office. But you know, as a trend over the last 10 years, the technology advancements, basically the type of collaboration tools and all that's available, that has made work from home, or in Saskin we call it as WFX, which is work from anywhere, WFX. So anybody can work from anywhere. So remote working is definitely becoming a reality. Even on the non-IT side, my belief is that where there is hardcore manufacturing and where you have to be on the floor, only those roles cannot be automated, or not automated, cannot be done from home. But rest of the things like marketing, sales, and design, and all those things can definitely be done from home, thanks to all the collaborative tools that are available in the market. And on the social distancing part, Subbu, my point is that it's more of discipline. So if you look around the countries where social distancing is being maintained, for example, Japan has almost opened up completely. That's because people are more disciplined and they're able to follow the instructions and all that. I think it's more to do with it's a personal thing, plus how quickly we are able to adapt to these things by being disciplined.
Agree, Krishna Kumar. Yes, social distancing largely arises also from social behavior, and it also is directly probably related to the kind of space that each person occupies. So I think in a country like India, where we have a huge population, it's not going to be that easy what we talk about.
Correct.
At the same time, coming back to the key question on, is this really a practical operation possibility for a non-IT is a big thing that we all see. I do believe that, you mentioned it about 100% to 15%, and also Mansich mentioned it about the acceleration of the work from home as a practical reality, which is probably being closer to reality now because of the pandemic. And better productivity is something that we have all seen, is something that Mansich also brought it out. But I do believe that what Bhamini started out with the story that organizations are made by people, and the people bonding, people togetherness, people hand-holding each other, and ability to group and talk about it and maybe make it work better was always a success story all along until now. Well, this is a new paradigm. So given these contradictions and maybe the kind of a environment that is coming out, so let's get to the second question of how practical is it, and particularly in a contact-less operation versus a contact-based operation, versus people required site operation versus people required remote operation. I do agree that some of them is already discussed, but I think a little deeper dive into that would be the good point to consider for the next round. Maybe Bhamini, you can start with this particular question.
Sure. Well, of course, every industry is going to find its own way to adapt and find its own method to implement. Okay, I belong to the media industry. Industry which largely is formed and operates on human interactions. Okay, so if you ask me, in our industry, even having a coffee together, a corridor conversation, these things can become a big idea and can really become a great media solution for our clients. So I belong to an industry which was like that and believed so much in working together. Okay, I also very strongly believe that it is your relation with your client or your supplier or your employee or your team member which brings out the best of your association. Okay, it did happen. So you might replace the IT, and you might replace everything else, get the best laptop for your employees, give the best phone, the best bandwidth, that bond is what matters the most. And even in our office, I mean, sometimes everything has changed. We are having virtual meetings all the time. We are having virtual brainstorming sessions all the time. Many a times we bring our coffee mugs to get in the feel good factor that, okay, we are having it over a coffee. So yes, nothing has dropped. The quality remains the same. We have become more practical. There is a method to the madness. Time is blocked, agenda is set, and then a meeting is held. But the madness we miss, I mean, we definitely miss the fun part of it. So in media, while things might become, very accustomed, I think it will remain to be a very hybrid kind of way of working, getting completely virtual. I think for the media and entertainment industry may not be the right business way of operating.
Great. So, with hybrid workspace as a concept that Bhamini pointed out, maybe I'll pass this question to Mansi to see, particularly in a learning industry, what would you think as the most appropriate methods for probably implementing these guidelines? These are here to stay. So, what next for this industry on the work from home possibility or work from anywhere possibility, as what Krishna Kumar mentioned? Yeah.
Right. So for our industry, again, there are, like Bhamini mentioned, we are also a high touch industry, right? While the ed tech part of it is on your learning solutions, on remote proctoring, your classes are you still want a very traditional classroom experience, right? No matter how much we say that we will have things online, your teachers are online, everything's online, the participant still misses out on the classroom experience. What we are experimenting with, and to a certain extent that is what is working out fine, is reducing the size of the classes now, ensuring that there are multiple batches for people to have the touch point. Having said that, for our workforce per se, the tech teams, the delivery team, they have adapted well to the remote working. What I also miss about the working in office part is when I interact with some of the people who joined us during this pandemic, right? So we had rolled out offers, we did not do a hiring freeze, so all the offers were honored, and when people joined us, they were remotely onboarded. Now that I have got this chance to see them after two months of their onboarding, and I compare the people who had joined during a regular office, the difference is that they have missed out on the tribal knowledge, like I like to call it, right? What works here? How does Manipal operate? How does a Meditrack operate? Right? They have come with their experience. They've come from outside, but they have not been able to figure out that bit yet. The worst hit are the GETs because they are fresh out of engineering, and we have just couriered them a laptop and told them that, okay, he's your manager, he will give you work and you have to do this piece. They miss out on the entire corporate experience, if I may look at it. But overall, if you have to look at how this remote working will work out, if we iron out these things on, how do we get people on in the first place? How do we ensure that there is a forum where people can meet, right? Virtually connect up. There is a history and the legacy of the company that is passed on. Plus, a smaller site gathering, instead of having 100 200 people in one office, maybe we look at smaller office spaces of 10 20 30 people, and each team can come in together at a designated time or a designated day. Maybe it will work better.
Great. Thanks, Mansij. I'll pass this question to Krishna Kumar. Maybe you did mention earlier as well on what are the collaborative tools possibly for work from home, and how could this really be successful? Maybe you can delve a little more deeper into that, Krishna, if that's work.
So there are a couple of things which I wanted to talk about. Okay. I went through a report from Gartner. It says that 54% of the non-IT companies in India are not ready to do anything related to work from home because they are not at all set up. And the reason for that is, one, we took it as granted that people have to come to office and everything has to be physically done. And now this is a shaken that entire paradigm that, indeed people can work from outside and they can still be productive. Okay. So I don't have the data, but I'm sure between January and now, the internet usage in the country would have gone up significantly because people are, everybody is using some form of, collaborative tool. Some of them are free as well. So people are able to use that as well. Okay. Now, in our IT setup, because of the way the whole companies are organized in terms of being abreast in terms of the remote working tools and all that. So it was much easier for us to, get into this mode. But I just want to add, a couple of points there. Okay, one, the fact that we were all working in a team together, we were meeting each other till January, February, that helped us in this whole transition. Like Mansij pointed out, we also had a lot of people joining, we call it as virtual onboarding and all that. Okay, a lot of people have joined. So those people will definitely miss out on the culture of the company, how to get things done, and a lot of things. Those will definitely happen over coffee, like, Bhamini said, right? So that's the thing that we are missing. My belief is that over a period of time, not just in work, corporate life, even in education, there will be a gradual percentage of time that people are expected to spend in office and versus they are doing outside office. A fresher, for example, he will be expected to be in the office maybe 80% of the time for the first 1 or 2 years. And then as he grows up the ladder, that time can reduce because he'll be more mature. He knows how to collaborate, how to get things done, so on and so forth. I would assume the same thing will happen to education as well. When you're in the preliminary nursery and all that, it'll be 100% presence in the office, in the school. And then as you move forward, when you touch UG and all that, then it'll be 70% in the working from or learning from home and 30% at the school or college.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, as you rightly see now, even the government of India has started a few initiatives as far as the e-learning part of the system is concerned. This was something that they abstained from earlier. But at the same time, as a fresher who enters into an organization, the team bonding used to be a critical HR experience, and the induction used to be a very critical and valuable experience for someone who comes into the organization, learns with the organization, and then keeps going with it. So this is something which is missing heavily, and giving this one more dimension is the point that you guys already brought out, is about the culture. How does one sync with the DNA of the company? What is the continuous and ongoing employee engagement methodology? While a virtual session of a coffee, as Bhamini was pointing out, or possibly a break, which could be talked about as I'm now off for 15 minutes from the work from home space kind of a stuff, would that really change? Because if you look at the history of the IT industry, the employees who came into the IT industry, and which is the most popular in the work from home story, were enjoying a lot of benefits which they were otherwise even missing at the residences. I mean, they were happy with the facility, they were happy with the amenities available, they were happy with the culture and social engagement. So there were a lot of pluses in the whole way the teams were built, and that's the reason why we saw large campuses coming into play across India. Captive centers just poured in and created huge infrastructure of the IT. And so in this issue, yes, he misses the learning with a colleague. He misses the learning with possibly with the HR when he can go and pour out something and then talk. Productivity measurement becomes a challenge, and time measurement or management becomes a challenge. So these parameters of productivity, the time measurement and employee engaging himself have a lot of impact on possibly the whole of the organizations as far as its ability to perform is concerned. So maybe I'll begin with Bhamini again on this issue from a HR perspective, and then maybe we'll move to Mansij on what is his learning experience on this.
Sure. At least what we have done, I can talk about my organization here. We have set our goals for 2021 virtually, and we haven't just set them for the full year. We've tried to go quarter by quarter by quarter, so that there are short-term goals, can be reviewed better, can be readjusted better. We don't know, the year is going to be very unpredictable, right? So what we've done is we've brought down our KPIs to be reviewed quarter by quarter and see where we stand, provide the help. And honestly, this time the evaluation is not only about your performance score. The evaluation is also going to be about, okay, no problem, this is the support required, let's start again. So, begin again, start again, review is the method that we are going to really try and test as the year goes by. Also, just to make a point on the culture, okay, because I think a collaboration of all conversations is what the culture of an organization is. So what we've started at Madison, and it's only for internal Madisonites, only for employees, we've started something like the Mad Nation wants to know, okay? So it's not just a team meeting, it's not just a conversation. We put our leaders there, and we put a team member, like a coffee with current format, and only personal questions are asked, okay? Personal questions on how did you come up in life? What were your learnings? How did you deal with a situation like this? all those sort of questions. We've done a FAQ and shared. The leaders are allowed to edit it. So we made it very personal to ensure you don't miss out on that part of your learning. Everything else happens virtually, right? A meeting happens virtually, case studies happen virtually, brainstorming happens, and you share your data and you read your data together. But aligning is what I'm focusing on, and ensuring it just gets better even in the virtual world. So I'd like to say that.
Great. HR management definitely becomes a challenge, and therefore that becomes a key driver in terms of managing workforce, particularly when it is a disparate workforce. It is not sitting at one location, not at arm's length. You're not able to see physically, touch it physically, or feel it physically. So the emotional quotient is going to be playing a major role in this entire stuff. I agree with you on that particular part, and that's a very, very large debate. At the same time, learning plays another key role in making sure that the workforce experience in contribution towards his role or his position would be a major concern when it is particularly away from the
Right.
office space or the workspace that we typically talk about. Maybe would you want to comment on that and maybe do a little bit of a deep dive on that issue, Mansich?
Sure. So let me just take a step back and look at it from an employee life cycle model, right? The first part is onboarding, which while it is happening virtually, what we have done at Mange is ensured that the manager syncs up, that person has a coffee, a similar format like Bhamini mentioned, a coffee with Karan, you have a coffee with the leader, not personal questions, but you get introduced to all the leaders in the organization. Right, and then right now as we speak, we are having the boot camp for the GETs that is going on, which is the virtual boot camp, which is being done by a CTO. So he's taking them through what is the technology that is being used, what are the different products that we have, how and the tech stacks and everything. Right now, one part of this is there are two challenges that we have seen from an HR life cycle. One is person says, okay, this is what my KRA KPIs was, but how do I go about it? How do I know I'm doing well? How do I know I'm on the right track? Right, and this is a big gap. I would admit it publicly as well, that while we have asked all our leaders to maintain to get into a stand-up meeting every morning to ensure that the teams are aligned, teams are doing what they're supposed to be doing, it is followed about 50%. Right, we will have to look at more of an agile methodology of working, borrowing from Krishna Kumar, where you have a agile stand-up meeting in the morning to say that this is where we are, this is where we were yesterday, this is where we are today. Without that, your employees will start feeling lost, and especially people who are working from home for an extended period of time, and in an industry like ours where people have never worked from home. Right. The second challenge is ensuring that my learning material is documented and available. Right, like Subbu, like you rightly pointed out in the beginning of this discussion, we never thought we would be working from home. So a lot of our material is not been documented. It is all there in somebody's laptop, somebody's head. The person sits in front of you and explains it to you, and you understand. But he never thought that he will not be there in front of you to explain that to you. Right. So that is another piece that we are working on. On a productivity front, if you look at it, and especially in Bangalore, and this is my observation for my company, maybe it will be different for others, but especially in Bangalore, I see the productivity has gone up, especially when people don't have to deal with the traffic in the morning and start worrying from 4 p.m. that how do I get back home. The number of hours that is being put in is significant. 9.5, 10 hours people are putting in. But then that is also a potential cause of concern, because the balance between work and life is blurring. Right, when you are at home, you are always on. So how do I let my manager know that okay, beyond 7 p.m. I am not there? Right, you cannot call me. Now that is another challenge that we are seeing, especially in a traditional industry. Then managers tend to say that okay, you're at home only, I can call you anytime. Right, how do you ensure that managers respect that boundary, that okay, I'm there 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 7, but beyond that, please don't call, or you can drop an email. Treat it like you were at work, because when we were at work, once a person left, okay, he's gone for the day. But right now, he's not gone for the day. So now these are another bit of challenges that we are working out. Trying to ensure that all the managers and leaders are sensitized to it. Over a period of time, and now as this becomes a part of reality, I think people will adjust and people will adopt and go ahead with it.
Sure. I think one of the key questions, yes, about Asians is possibly that we have been very intuitive, and therefore we always learn as we go, and there is a lot of jugaad in our systems as well.
Mhm.
So, Krishna Kumar, would you think that productivity and time management and learning and culture, these aspects of the employee life cycle, would they be impacted severely on account of this work from home, or would you think the collaborative tools which you mentioned could be the foundation for such engagements, could be an effective answer to the whole situation, and therefore it is absolutely in a controllable situation? It is just a question of adaptation to this new methodology rather than having a mindset that, look, I wanted to go to office and therefore I have to be at the office, kind of stuff. What would you think on that?
Okay, so I'll start by saying I mean, I've been in the industry for a long time, so I know a lot of senior people in the industry. They never believed that you can work from home and be productive, and now almost 100% of them are saying, well, I never thought this is going to work. Now it's working beautifully for me. So that, even for people in IT industry, it's a big revelation as such. Okay. On culture, I fully agree with all the other panelists as well. So it is not something that you can create through virtual means. It needs, person to person interaction and all that. Okay. But on productivity, at least what we have seen is that the productivity has remained same or even better in some cases. Okay. Because we measure productivity of project teams and all that in regularly measured. It's always measured. And then we actually did pre-lockdown, how was it? During lockdown, how is it? And then now when it is opening up, then how is it going to be? So that way, productivity is not a challenge. People spending time is high, but again, I want to qualify that people are spending time maybe because of power cuts and bad internet connections and all that. So I mean, I think when we spoke the other day, I was telling that our internet connection is really pretty bad, right? We are 130th or 131st among 179 countries. So really, we are at the lower end of the internet speed and all that. Okay, so until our internet infrastructure really goes up, as a country, we will have challenges, in terms of people working from home and all that. But that's one part of it, right? So while there could be genuine reasons people are working for 9 hours, 10 hours and all that, there are these additional, now it's going to be monsoon time, so there'll be power cuts and all that. So that'll also take up, more time and all that, right? That's another part of it. So productivity is clearly not an issue. We should be able to manage. People, I mean, saving time on commute, that's pretty huge, right? In Bangalore, if you're going from somewhere in South Bangalore to Whitefield or something like that, you're spending 2.5 hours one way. So it's a huge saving for people. And, and which is why people are willing to work till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock and all that. Okay. But is this something that people can adopt and work for many, many years to come? I think it is possible if all of us reflect, right? When this whole thing started, it was madness everywhere. People were starting to work at 6:30 in the morning till 10:30 in the evening. Now things are stabilized. So we know what's our boundary. We are able to tell people that, buddy, don't call me after 7 o'clock in the evening or whatever, right? Like Mansit said. So I think we are learning, and it'll definitely improve over a period of time. The last bit is on people who have joined recently, okay? Especially, the graduate trainees and all that. For that, we need touch time. It cannot go away. Maybe the next generation of GTEs who will come into picture after 5 years or so, they would have got used to this, online learning and all very well, that, they will need far, fewer sessions for them to pick up something and all that. But the culture part cannot be done virtually. It needs, physical interaction.
Agree. So that's a key parameter, no doubt about it. With a person staying at home and trying to work all his way up on the system, or whether it is to be some other thing that he has to do, one major thing that we can call out in this issue is the individual contributor role. So the person suddenly becomes aloof and he is all by himself, and therefore he has to manage a situation. He has to answer a situation. In the office, he used to have a buddy in the workspace and he could answer a question, or he could probably rely upon somebody else to guide him on some issue, etc. So this is something that is possibly a reality as far as the work from home activity is concerned. This brings up two questions. One is, would the cost escalate? Because the moment you see an individual contributor coming in a workspace, he has to be qualified, he has to be experienced, he has to be understanding the way the organization works to contribute effectively to the organizational goals. So given that, would the cost escalate? And given that the cost would possibly escalate, would there be an amount of joblessness creeping in, which is possibly contributing, and there would be a general reduction in the force overall to make sure that now that I don't need to really stuff people into the organization, we are not really going to have too many people, and this is how it probably started. So maybe we'll start this question with Krishna Kumar himself on this area.
Yes, sir. So it's an excellent question, Subbu. My point is, each industry is, going through its own learning and, maturity phase, right? So I believe that experienced people will be able to work for multiple companies. So which is basically Uberization of workforce that is bound to happen. Okay. If I am an expert in one domain, my expertise can be sold to 5 different companies. And the companies don't care because their cost is going to be lower because they're only going to hire me for 1/5 of the time, as against as a full-time employee, exactly what you said. So that's a trend that was that is popular in the US and the Europe and India. This pandemic will definitely open up that part of it. So there will be willingness and maturity, both on the part of the employer as well as the employee in accepting experts for a limited period of time. And that's a model. So it's okay. As an expert, I'm bringing certain things on the table, and that needs to be valued by the company, by the fellow team members, and so on. I think that cultural shift is bound to happen. May not be today, but over the next few quarters, it is bound to happen. So that's my view.
Fantastic. So I think I'll leave that to Bhamini, to you. It's an interesting question as to whether there is going to be a cultural shift in the types of employment itself. A big question, certainly. Yes, Bhamini, for your comments.
Yes, very relevant question. Something which we've been thinking about also. I'm sure every HR person is today thinking of managing the salary cost, which usually is the highest cost for any organization, better. Okay. I would say it's going to get better optimized. Okay. It may not go high, it may not go low because work hasn't suffered. What needs to be done all the more. So the cost is going to get optimized better. So there are maybe 2-3 points that I'd like to make. One is, of course, if your business process can be broken down into what can be automated or what is methodical and what is not, then you accordingly align your human resource. Okay. Like Krishna said, Uberization, getting in the whole gig network is really getting bigger. Okay. So if we can really get that expertise from outside, apply it once, and then internally make it a norm, that will optimize the cost in a certain way. And also, the way the hierarchy, the protocol, which at some point in time felt the need of the hour, might flatten. It might be based on, 4 people doing it for maybe 2 clients, wherein earlier there were exclusive client teams. So a lot is going to change from that aspect. But overall, I'd like to say that it will only get optimized better. So your expertise, your effectiveness, efficiency is only going to come out that much more better. And I think that's going to be one gift by the pandemic to the corporate world for sure.
Great. So cost optimization from a organization perspective and resource optimization from an individual perspective. So I'll take the resource optimization question to Mansrich. Would you think the learning systems today would possibly make a paradigm shift? If you look at the US, we have systems where we can keep learning and changing professions on an overall basis on a regular time. At 42, I may decide I move from this industry to maybe becoming a totally different professional kind of stuff, which is not seen traditionally in Asian economies, including India. You always had traditional systems on engineering, medicine, and then a software came up with a huge plus. That used to be the learning curve, and the learning curve which actually provided professional opportunities as well as earning opportunities. So that used to be the story. Would you think there would be a paradigm shift in this method of thinking itself?
If you ask me, yes, there is a paradigm shift in this method of thinking. And why I'm telling this? If I look at my enrollment, so we in part of MAGE, we have Jigsaw and we run this data sciences program, right? Postgraduate diploma in data sciences. If I see the enrollment, the demographic of the people who are enrolling in the last couple of months, and this is pre-pandemic, but there was there's a shift is there, and you can see the shift happening. The demographic has been changing. Even till last year, we used to have a lot of students, fresh graduates, 2-3 years into the industry. They were enrolling for this course. Now I see a lot of 40 plus people enrolling in that, right? And this is a shift that we have seen from Feb, March onwards. So this does, point towards, that there is a shift happening. People are trying to reskill themselves, upskill themselves to move into a different domain, right? Maybe a lot of them are from the software industry, coming with a software background, coming in, saying that, okay, data sciences is the new future. Maybe we want to do this. There are a lot of people who might be just doing it right now in anticipation of a job loss, and that is why we are seeing the numbers going up. But there is a distinct shift. Having said that, there is also another point in this entire piece, right, where when you have the Uberization of workforce, and if you are letting a person work in multiple units, right, then my concept of an organization takes a hit, right? What do you mean by an organization? Now, who is this organization? Like Bhamini started out in the beginning of this discussion that organization of the people who are there. And if I start breaking down a work into smaller and smaller pieces and saying that, okay, I can outsource technically I can have a person work for 1/5 of the number of hours the person is working in, and he can take 3 other gigs while he's at it. What happens to my concept of organization, right? That will be an interesting dimension to this entire our entire thought. And also if you see how will your traditional functions, a lot of our organizations have this huge army of facilities or admin and facilities team. What happens to them if I don't have offices? What happens to them? Will they take up some other role? Will they go? Where will they go? Those are interesting questions that will come up now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the key things that we have been driving on this discussion so far is, yes, it's not a myth, it's more or less a reality. And yes, I like the word Uberization from Krishna Kumar, and it's something that's going to stay here in this issue. And but one issue that we probably have to ponder about is, do we have the legal framework ready for this kind of an operation? At this point of time, you have categories which are specific types of employment, your workforce which has to observe a certain amount of time, you have options which is about leave, you have options which is extended for everything. And so the legal framework does not typically today fully support a work from home option as is. So would you think that this is something that we can still work upon, or is it that you would expect some changes in this entire legal framework, and the government should not just talk about work from home, but should do some facilitation of the legal framework as such to power this entire exercise? Would you think so? Maybe I'll start with Krishna Kumar on this.
So I'm not too sure about the what is legal framework as such, but when we have a when we get our people enrolled through an offer letter or whatever, right? So some of the things that are mentioned is that you should be able to go and work in any of our offices anywhere in the country or in the world. Okay, that's a typical thing that we mentioned. Okay, now that will be extended by saying you can potentially work from anywhere. That's it. Okay, so we will provide you with all the necessary tools and all that. But you have to mention ensure that the IP is protected, the confidentiality of information is protected, and so on. But other than that, you're just free to work from wherever you are, as long as you're meeting your deadlines, your productivity is on as per plan. I think you're good to go there. Okay. The HR issues, of course, I mean, that's there. I mean, that cannot be handled by a legal framework as such. But right now, when a person signs up for a company, he or she has already understood the boundaries in which the person is going to work. Okay, all that will anyway be applicable for a person when the person is working from home or remote or whatever. That's my view, Subbu.
Great. I'll pass this to Bhamini.
Yeah, I think a lot might have to get a little more stricter. Okay, so while work from home is going to liberate everything else, from a very business point of view, I think the non-compete clause, if the gig network is going to get involved, the confidentiality clause, things like non-disclosures, things like the notice to be served before you just call it quit and you want to go, these things might have to be done much more carefully than they used to be earlier. All right. So I think these are a few legal important matters which from a appointment letter or a contract perspective will have to be carefully looked in. It may not be that one for all letter which work for 80% of the organization. It might have to probably get a little more distinguished basis roles and responsibilities. Other than that, I think many other things, like for example, from a very legal perspective, an employee really wants to know, will my transfer, like Krishna just said, will I get transferred to a look from this location to that location? So those kind of transfers, not in locations but in job roles, will have to become little more open. That today you do work for this client or this team or this function. Tomorrow you relevant, of course related, you might get transferred to something else, and you have to be open to things like that. Okay. If you've upgraded and added a skill, bring it to the notice so that it can be applied better, those kind of things. And having said that, I also feel that, a lot of allowances which an organization would otherwise give an employee, like fuel and driver and car and entertainment and, all those things, which today are of no use, might convert into, internet allowance or a maid allowance if you're working from home for all the women out there, or things like that, which become more employee friendly. So while the overall legal framework, I hope, gets better in India, every organization will definitely change the policy and the framework in which they operate. That might become a point of review for sure.
Agree. So particularly for IT industry, the working hours may not be relevant, but in non-IT industry, the working hours and the overtime becomes a big question mark.
Yes.
Their workspace and the amount of effort they put in and all these are related as such in this issue. So that's the reason I thought I'll bring this up on the issue. Maybe I'll pass this question to Mansij as well for his comments.
Right, thanks, Subbu. So this, I would expect there should be a lot of regulatory changes, right? Because today what we are doing, while we say work from home is working out well, this is technically, if you go by the very, very definition of all our labor laws, this is technically not allowed, right? Right now, we have not heard of any such cases, but imagine somebody is working from home and there is a power outage and he gets electric shock. Do you cover him under workman's compensation? You don't. How do you prove at that point of time he was working for you and not surfing the net, right? What happens if a person meets an accident right outside his home? He was not traveling to office. Will he get covered under GPA, right? Those are questions that we don't have an answer to right now. We are right now on a wing and a prayer on these sites, but all the acts, the Factories Act, Industrial Disputes Act, Shops and Establishments, or employee compensation, all of them talk about a factory or a workspace. It does not talk about home. So there has to be a definition, a change in definition of workspace.
Yes, Mansij, the extended workspace as of now under the Employee Compensation Act is a very wide definition. As long as it does not, it does prove that it is between the home and the office. Yes, it goes up to that. POSH is another act which is possibly an extendable story because POSH assumes the office space and the workspace at home also as part of the workspace. So there are quite a few things that we don't know because the number of working hours that a person would be imposed upon, is it going to be restricted? Like IT employees do not have a challenge in those circumstances. They are very collaborative and cooperative, but may not be always applicable to all categories of workforce.
Even for IT employees, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Even for IT employees, right? A lot of our IT work is done in SEZ locations. Now, how do you account for when we are working from home, right? Will it be an SEZ? Will this be an extended SEZ? How will you account for that?
Yeah, those are all the challenges that the legal framework has to bring in. That's what I was telling you. Though you can say from an SEZ employee perspective, the person would be putting the code only in a secured place, which is supposed to be a secured zone as per the SEZ, and may not be really doing it out of any outside location. We need to look at a lot of changes in those as well. I agree with you.
Sure.
Sorry, Krishna Kumar, you wanted to say something?
No, I agree. On the SEZ part, absolutely agree. So right now, because of the relaxation that the government has given, all IT companies are able to allow their employees to work from anywhere. But there will be some tweaks. I'm sure the tweaks will happen sooner or later to enable this.
Yes, I believe that it is right. It is not a myth, but then as a reality, it has its own challenges and new paradigms which have to come into place, and those involve both the cultural shifts, maybe the legal shifts. All these are a part of this game. At the same time, I think we are nearing the uh, hour for the question and answer session part of the story. I think I'll pull a few questions which are there on this already. I'll probably take the first question from a gentleman. Vinod Rao, it's about onboarding management trainees or anyone who are fresh to work life in general could be a challenge. What is your take on what the company could do to make this effective? Maybe Bhamini, you can answer this question.
Yeah, sure. So yes, onboarding of said a challenge because he's not already from the organization or does not really adapt to the culture. So it begins by on induction kind of a module where you take him through the policies, processes, have a buddy appointed, whom he can call at any point of time. But I think he kind of actually gets onboarded only after he meets them or kind of connects with them. But until then, work does not suffer is what the bottom line has to be, and that's how you're going to start onboarding employees. So that's what I would like to say.
All right. Yeah. Anything else that you want to add on this message in terms of onboarding experience for trainees specifically?
And I think Bhamini has covered it, but yeah, that is one part of it. Say, like we do the onboarding of the generic onboarding at virtually, but there has to be a time when they have to come to office to get into the thick of things. That has to be there.
Sure. Krishna, do you want to have any addition to this question?
No, I think both of them are covered it beautifully. So it has to be both. So some amount of touch time is required before the people can become really productive and all that, for sure.
Okay. So the second question is from Suraj. He talks about team bonding and how is team bonding going to affect the productivity, especially for new hires. It's the same extension of the similar question. Yes. So that's something that's being asked for. So who wants to go on this? Maybe Bhamini, you can.
Yeah, sure. It's my favorite topic in HR, so I'd like to answer this question. Yes, team bonding can happen virtually. I mean, especially today's generation is all about social media. So I would urge all of you to use your social media skills to bond better with now your workforce, and that might come into play. But yes, it cannot really replace what you learn when you are in a physical environment. That I agree. But yes, until then, like I said, work cannot suffer. So please do use your social media skills to connect better, bond better, learn better. That's possible, right?
Yeah. An interesting extension of the same question, I just kept it on hold, was on, he's asking specifically on the team lunch and team outings, which probably employees will miss in a work from home situation.
Yeah, right.
So
no.
Maybe
actually,
yes, go ahead, Krishna.
Subbu, so the point, I mean, just adding to what Bhamini is saying, see, as an employee, if I have joined newly, I mean, I cannot go to office because of restriction and all that, right? But I should be able to go and have a lunch or a coffee or something with my fellow colleague. And I mean, other way also, the company will be, or the set of people in the group will be more welcoming to new people by saying, hey, you two people stay close by. Why don't you guys meet up for coffee or whatever? And then that bonding can definitely be built. So one thing is for sure, whenever some person joins in, the company will be welcoming that person and want the person to be productive and be part of the team. So I think companies will go out of their way, come up with some innovative ways of trying to get these people merged really well with the existing system.
So also, I have a point to make here. Just one more thing I want to tell Suraj. Maybe you should go and check people's LinkedIn profiles to know them better, and just check their Facebook profiles to see if you get to know their hobbies better. I mean, that's one way that you can use social media to connect better.
Yeah.
So the extension of one of these questions, similarly on probably the work, is about something from Pratibha, who asked about how can the productivity be mapped by an employee? How can employee manage his time? I think partly this was answered by Krishna in his comment about collaborative tools and methods in which productivity can possibly be measured. Maybe Krishna, you can go ahead and then pass it to Mansij as well.
Sure. So So even when you're, I mean, at least from an IT perspective, right, or it should be same for everybody, right? You know what's the amount of work that you're supposed to do in a week, in a month, or whatever. Okay, so and you can definitely cut it down into what's the piece of work that you will do in the day and all that. Okay, and you know what support you would need for doing that work. Okay, I mean, rank fresher, it will take some time for them to figure that out, but the rest of the people can definitely know that what it takes for me to deliver my piece of output. It can be anything, software or non-software, whatever, right? So that way you already know what's the type of productivity that you were delivering before the lockdown, or while you were in the office, and then you can see what you're doing right now. So each individual can themselves, which is what we did. I personally spoke to quite a few of my team members, and then they said that they are able to manage their time. They're able to get the work output, notwithstanding these internet issues and all that. They are able to really manage their work and ensure that the work output is happening as per plan, and their productivity numbers are there.
Right.
Good. Mansi, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just adding to that. So what Krishna said, that is absolutely right. The second part is as a manager, you will have to know that what your team will be able to deliver. You have to break down the work into deliverable chunks, right?
Correct.
You may go and ask for a timesheet. You may not ask for a timesheet, but it depends on you. But you will you'll need to know that I expected A, B, C to be done by end of the day. Have they been done? And do you give the feedback immediately instead of waiting for end of the week or something like that?
Correct. Absolutely.
Great.
So this is where this is where the daily stand-up meeting, what Mansi was saying, will give a clear perspective on where we stand, and then you can also get people to collaborate in that call, saying, A has a problem, B knows about it, why don't you guys collaborate and get this fixed or whatever.
Well, one of the interesting questions from the framework part of the story is Nitika Singh asks, will our existing work from home and leave policy see some changes? Any new policies regarding the health and mind of the employee? So yes, well-being will be an important concern to organizations. When somebody is working from home, you don't see him, and therefore you will have to assume, given that it is both psychological well-being and the physical well-being part of the story that is today playing very heavily on the mind of the millennials. That's a critical question that will go into the picture. At the same time, Bhamini, maybe you can answer about any policy changes and how do you want to address it in a HR perspective.
Well, I don't. We are learning as it goes. It's been 3 months, and we've learned quite a few things. Like I said, allowances might change. For example, policies in terms of leave, like you do apply for leave and do not call the person, he or she is on leave. How do you let the entire unit know that the person is on leave? That communication protocols might change a little. Ensuring participation in events that have to be done will have to be made mandatory. So quite a few work related protocols will change, and so will policies. But for now, there are protocols and reviews which are set up. They haven't really become, like my leave policy hasn't changed yet. Okay. But we are considering if accumulation of leave can be the same, or should it be brought down, or what. We are kind of trying to review and consider that. So a few things will change for sure, but around leave and around benefits.
Right. I agree. Mansi, do you want to add anything on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the policies will see a change, but right now it is a wait and watch approach. I think that's what most organizations are doing, because we ourselves are trying to figure out the new normal.
Correct.
Right. When is a person on leave? How does a person apply for leave? How do you know he's on leave? Right. All of that. But it will take some time, but it will maybe slowly, steadily we will get there.
Yeah, and one question which is probably a relevant question in today's context is from Mayur Kashalkar on what are the virtual employee engagement activities currently practiced in this scenario. He's asking about any industry practices that are happening about employee engagement activities which are virtual stuff at this point of time. Would you want to, anyone wants to address it? Please go ahead.
I can.
Yeah, Krishna Kumar, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll give you a couple of things that we have done. One is each team, what we said is each team should create a video and post it to the rest of the organization. I mean, if there is a team of say 15, 20 people, they'll create a team around it. And then, each one, I mean, thanks to the smartphone generation, everybody has a video camera and all that. So they can easily shoot a few seconds or a few minute video, and somebody puts all those things together. People are very smart. Young kids are really smart in all these things. So we get videos and all that coming out, often from teams, just to show that they are bonding and they are doing things. The other thing that we are doing is also to appreciate and celebrate teams that are doing extraordinary work during these times. So almost each and every team has done a fantastic job. So we actually have a mailer that goes out to the organization on what's the type of work the team has done, and and there are stories of people staying in some remote village, not village, but remote towns and all that. 10-15 years back, impossible for people to have done anything. Thanks to 4G and all that, people are able to do work from there. And those stories are also told to people and said, and they have communicated in a way that there are challenges. People have gone out of their way. And then the things like your laptop. I'll give you an example, right? Your laptop conks off. What will you do? So the IT guys, they go out of their way, procure a new laptop or find a new laptop for you, come and give it to you at your house. And by doing all these things, they are putting their lives at risk, right? Corona can hit anybody, but then that's the teamwork for everybody to see, so some of these things. But then the other people are normally used to this, team bonding exercise, like going for a outing and all that. Those things are not there. Like Bhamini and Mansi said, this shock is just 3 months old. We need to come out of it to figure out new ways of, employee engagement and all that.
Okay, good. I think I understand that, and that's a critical stuff to handle. The team bonding is now at a social distance happening, actually, is what you're saying, and that's good to know. And one question from Balagopal Padmakumar, interestingly, I think I'll point this to Mansej. How are leaders coping with the change? Are promoter-driven companies yet to come to terms with work from home? Are leaders who are typically 45 plus agile in terms of mindset shift? So learning part for a lot of people. So Mansej, I'll pass this to you and then you can pass it to Bhamini.
Right. Thanks. Yeah, interesting question. Now, coming from a promoter-driven company, I think the Manipal group per se, because of a close association with hospitals also, we have embraced this very well. Right from Dr. Ramdas Pai downwards, everybody has been embraced this technology shift of working from home. Most of our leaders, some of whom are not only 45 plus, but even 50 plus, 55 plus, they have seamlessly moved on to using Teams, and that's a very refreshing change. But that also means that they now accept that that there is some new way of working, and we are doing that. So people, at one point of time, we were using Zoom, Teams, and Livesize as depending on what the leader is comfortable with. We were using multiple methods, but I think everybody's moved on to Teams. See, one good part about this pandemic was there was no choice. You either adapted or you said that I am going to shut shop for 2 months. Right? We didn't have a choice. So that way, because of this post transition, people adopted faster. And I think it will. I do not know about other promoter-driven companies, but our company has at least adopted this well.
Thanks, Bhamini, for final words. I think we have only limited time left.
Sure. Yes. No, I think from a work perspective, technology has also made things simple. So yes, leaders have adapted very well. Apart from asking them to unmute when they have to talk, sometimes you have to give a reminder. Mute when you are not talking, you give those reminders. So from work perspective, things have kind of followed in place. We've ensured our leaders also, from a fun perspective, accept this new normal. So like we had a radio station kind of a engagement activity where we put the leader as a radio jockey and songs were sung for team members and stuff like that. So we are kind of trying to bring it all together, to make it, make the new normal interesting. So yes, I would really want to, if these are concluding statements, Subbu, I'd like to conclude saying that it will be a hybrid model which will emerge out of this, where we'll bring in the physical space and the virtual space together. And, what the pandemic has given us the best, apart from the COVID-19 virus, is the time factor. And I'm sure today we are all utilizing it better and doing a lot more than what we did earlier.
Thank you. I think the rest of the questions are mostly on alliances, which stay answered in our course of the discussion. I think if there's something more, I think the PR team from Brandcom can definitely reach out to us, and we can probably send out those answers. I'll pass this over to Sridhar. Thank you very much, all panelists, for this active participation. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'd like to thank all of you because it was a really interesting and illuminating discussion for me. And, there were so many practical things that companies are doing in this short time, and the way we have adapted, I think, is a very, very significant achievement. Thanks, Subbu, for bringing out the best in the participants and the finalists. Thanks, Bhamini. Thanks, Krishna Kumar, and thanks, Mansij. My final thought is, I think we are all probably living in a greater uncertainty than we have ever lived before, and this is one dimension of that. And since you all spoke about what it means for employee morale, since many of you are from the HR space, I'll give you my own perspective, which Sam has often mentioned. We are from the media and the communication business. And when you talk about work from home, how do you build a relationship with a client? I have a relationship with a client for over 30 years. That's been built with several face-to-face meetings, with going for his children's weddings, playing golf with him. So how do you replicate something like that is perhaps one of the challenges that we are going to face in our business. But I guess, as always, we'll try and find a solution. Thank you for your inputs. It really was, I'm sure, extremely useful to all the people who participated, and I'm really thankful to you for helping Brandcom out with this, and I'm sure there'll be other occasions when we can tap into your expertise and competence. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.